With respect to what we were just talking about of sort of how we don't exactly know why it works, but we know how, we know the methodology that we use and how we help people. I want to ask you about that. All the participants, working with Nancy Salzman, when I talk with people, I say they used the technology rational inquiry. And I'm an executive coach in ESP. I understand what that is. But when I talk to people about that we have this technology, I think the first thing that comes to people's mind is machine. There's this thing, and I try to explain to them, no, you don't understand. There's no machine. This is a conversation with people. I'm curious as to why do you call rational inquiry a technology? And then how do you see that works, or how does that help, or how does the methodology work and help people with Tourette's?
Well, you could call it a methodology too, but a technology, if you look at the definition of the word, I think technology fits more tightly. We have a series of theoretical understandings that have procedures and methodologies with them that we apply to different situations to get certain types of results. Technology isn't all hardware. There's software technology. There's all sorts of human technology. There are people who object to that word, and you could say, as I said, methodologies or knowledge base or things like that. But it is based on certain types of understandings and assumptions. We can challenge those assumptions and understand what it does to the thing itself. It is in itself the knowledge base is like an object, and we apply it in different ways. So it's not just one methodology. It's not a single step-by-step thing. It's based on a guiding principles that are understandings. So I think it more fits into a technology type of a thing.
And
I believe it's because we are scientifically oriented that we would call it that.
With respect to when I tell people about what's happened, I say, look, Nancy Salzman worked with somebody in a matter of 4 hours. Their Tourette's is down 90%. For people that are involved with the project, this is becoming kind of the norm, which is incredible for us. But for other people, I think it still just sounds too good to be true. Like they can't even imagine how that could be. Even if you show them the results. Do you have any idea of what might be happening? Of how the methodology works?
I believe so. The methodologies, the procedures, things like that are created based on certain understandings. You might say those understandings are innovations within the human psychology. There's patents that support around this and that are being pursued around this. To people who let's suppose they've spent all their lives trying to plow a field. If someone comes to their field with an ox-dragged cart, they look outside and the next day it's all plowed. It seems like a miracle. It isn't. It's a tool. I think we have quite potent tools, and I think our tools are unique. And that uniqueness makes the results, at times we get results where other tools don't get results, as is the nature with many tools. If you've never seen a saw before, suddenly the cut piece of log seems like a miracle. I don't think there's anything miraculous at all about what we do. I think it's very straightforward and explainable. We use what you might call a conversational type of technology, understanding. When Nancy Salzman first met me and I was demonstrating the technology, she's very well versed in many human performance technologies, and she wasn't able to see what I was doing. So it's certainly outside of those patterns. So Some people say, oh, your tool's better, it's not a matter of being better or worse. Tools are best for the thing that they're, suited to do. And if our tool is unique, there's certain things that it is suited to do that probably no one else can do right now. Who knows, there may be a whole bunch of people that do it better later. But I believe our tool set is potent. I believe our tool set is unique. And for all the people that have worked with us, who've been involved, whether it's been medical doctors, psychiatrists, people who are specialists in hypnosis, people are specialists in NLP, people are specialists in all these different things. They come and they see what we do. Most of the time they can't see what we're doing. And then when they learn what we're doing, they say, wow, this is really unique, interesting, because we have reasons for what we do. So I think it's very potent. And I think it's relatively simple. It takes, in some ways, overcoming your own limitations to do it. But when we first started with using the main staff of our technology, I was going to program a computer to do it. I was looking to do that. Of course, with human sense abilities and the things that we can do with rapport and things like that, we can do more than a computer can much quicker. But there's a certain portion of what we do that I believe could be well done with computer.
Wow. I was just thinking about all my experiences over the last 6 years. If it would have been a computer instead of a person, that would have been.
No, a computer doesn't have the same sort of sense acuity and interpretation of that sense acuity that humans do.
But it is neat what you're saying is that it can be part of what's happening, though. It can be reproducible in that way.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we spoke of in the very beginning, Nancy Salzman and myself. We wanted to do these results without talent. We would always say, do it without talent. Do it like you didn't have any insight, you didn't have any even hypothesis, all these different things. Just do it like a machine without talent. So a lot of our results are doable and we teach them without talent. Talent on top, we can do some things that are pretty fancy.
Well, it's funny hearing you say that, or interesting, because when I went through my 16-day, and there I had, already some great shifts with what I was experiencing in my body, I tell people that the head trainers of that training, one had a background as a waitress at a cheesecake factory, and the other one was a bartender, meaning people that helped me profoundly with my journey, didn't have a background in psychology, didn't have a PhD in understanding, the brain or anything like that.
The wrong credentials.
They had the wrong credentials, but they had dedicated years and years and years to, practicing rational inquiry and understanding the education. And that always blew my mind, that they could study this and it was that reproducible and they could help me in such a profound way.
Mm-hmm. The thing that stands in the way the most of our reproducibility are people's own issues and their own beliefs. And even their beliefs in what they can do. You're coming into that saying, believing maybe that a waiter couldn't possibly do that. If the waiter believed that, they would never be able to do it. Most of us can prove our limiting beliefs correct. If I believe I can't run a mile in a certain time, I can almost always prove myself correct. And especially if I have an issue of wanting to be right, then that's double fortified. I've not only proven my limiting belief, but I'm right, and that's a big plus for me. So
I know that one well.
Yeah, a lot of people have that, and that's something that's easy to, over time, transcend. The right, wrong thing sort of fun.
Well, so with respect to the technology and then the Tourette study, can you talk a little bit about the sleep studies? Mm-hmm. And why did you think about doing the sleep studies? What have the sleep studies shown us? Why was it important? What is it showing about the unconscious nature, about Tourette's?
Well, I want to measure, obviously, in doing these things as much as possible, but one of my questions was, okay, are we teaching people just to be better, well-behaved? how much is the conscious mind working? How can we do this unconscious checking? And we'd even spoken to an external psychiatrist, a psychologist who does all sorts of testing. He does tests, helped us create the tests we use, the personality tests and things like that. And he was a specialist in this unconscious testing. He didn't have anything directly that could help us test that. We, of course, have the EEG, and so we can see in that if a person's repressing things. We want to say, well, okay, someone has tics. Are they just repressing the tics? So if we taught them to be more of a pressure cooker of psychology,
sitting there.
Yeah, and that they in fact have the tics, but now in a sense they've learned to counter tick on top of the tics, so now that their tics sort of just doesn't manifest. It's in there, but it's
a still tick.
Yes, exactly. It's a freeze tick. Some people have the freeze tick.
Some people
have the freeze tick. So I was thinking, well, we have this ability to do sleep studies, and with sleep studies, all right, maybe you can repress your behavior, your tics or whatever while you're awake, but while you're asleep, that's a different level. And if we could, it would be great to examine it, because if the sleep studies revealed that there was no change, for example, but the person's behavior changed, we know we're teaching a congruent form of repression. But that's what we would call it, and that's what we'd know what we're doing. If we got more of a sleep study that really showed the person was not ticking as much in sleep, that would have a number of effects. One, they get more sleep. Because some Tourette's people tick so many times an hour and are being awoke. They never get good sleep, it seems, and they're walking around tired and things like that. And then, of course, if this went away in sleep, you would know that even in some of the altered states of awareness where we're more free in our dreams, you're still not ticking. So it's a deeper level. And again, it was really nice to see the profound differences in sleep studies. But I think for me, what was really the candy, the thing that I really like to hear is some of the Tourette's people who didn't need to sleep as much and didn't feel exhausted all the time. Most people don't understand some people understand what it's like to have a rough night's sleep. Well, imagine having that every night because you're thrashing around, doing all these different tick things or whatever. It's not. You're a person with Tourette's, and you're a person who had it in their sleep, and it disturbed your sleep, yes? Or you don't know?
I actually don't know. I was actually surprised when I found out that you wanted to do sleep studies, because I never even knew that people ticked. I never knew that people ticked in their sleep. And then once we started the sleep studies after me, because we weren't measuring me in the beginning, because mine was just sort of happenstance. Mm-hmm. But then, when I found out, it was so funny, because
Did you feel you were more well rested after your Tourette's went away? Or
there's no question that I'm more well rested. Mm-hmm. I think it's a combination of the fact that I probably don't tick, or I tick way, way less than while I sleep. But it's more about the day-to-day experience of there's no more internal war going on. There isn't this exhaustion of thinking about what are people thinking about me, and then also just all the physical energy that goes into ticking all the time, the chomping, the moving, so I think that
an injury,
all those things. So, but do I sleep better? I do think in general, just life is better. But I think, so for me, it's hard to say if I can say it's that specific variable.
But without mentioning some of the participants, for me, it was great to hear that they had to sleep less, they felt well rested, all of these different things. So that's good. I think, we're hitting at a conscious level and a subconscious level to a great degree. And I believe truly it is changing, and I do believe we participate in it. I'm not absolutely sure. I'm willing to be proven wrong. But I think because of the timing of it, the fact that within hours, now that we focus on it, we had within our understanding of the human psychodynamic, Tourette's fit in a specific type of place with a specific type of thing. And our hypothesis, it's an interesting stage in science, and I don't know if we're at that stage in general, but a first stage in science is you categorize things. For a long time, biology was just that. It categorized things, just put them into families, related them to each other, came up with a type of theory. And then you start to hypothesize laws. And within that hypothesis of law stage, it's sort of interesting, because then you start to be able to experiment and verify those laws. And that's like a stage 2. You go into a stage 3. In stage 3, now you could use those laws to explain things and verify those things by experiment. So you verified the laws to some degree. Now you're using them as an extension. The final stage in science, or one of the final stages, is where you can use those laws to hypothesize something that's not been discovered and then discover it, like the Higgs particle. You hypothesize our equations that have been derived from this data and examining relationships and codifying these relationships through the scientific method now imply that there's this thing that we've never observed. And then to be able to observe it and verify that observation is great. We have these theories, we have certain categorizations of things. We have theories, if you will, you might call them equations or relationships or principles of how those things work. And then to be able to have someone with Tourette's come through, and people with Tourette's fit in a certain type of a category within our psychodynamic understanding, and to be able to use our tools to say, okay, this would make the Tourette's go away, the Tourette's syndrome, that sort of a thing. And to apply that and to observe it happening is interesting. And that doesn't mean it's happening why we think it's happening, but it may. It opens a wonderful question.